she'll tell you a little bit more about herself and then introduce the speakers.
As Deb said, I've put together boot camps for DaVinci for 4 or 5 years now, usually in internet marketing. And I proposed this one because I've been avoiding social media, doing the bare minimum for a while, but I learned this past year that Pinterest is something that I can't avoid. And there's been a lack of training in it. What happened for me is, I'd been hearing about it. I needed another social network like a hole in the head. And then I discovered that Pinterest was driving the second biggest source of traffic to my site, Denver Green Chili, right behind Google. And I wasn't even using Pinterest. So we'll get into that. So I located 2 amazing experts. I'm delighted that we have this combination. The 2 of them are coming from Pinterest to Pinterest almost from opposite ends, very different types of business perspective. Andrea comes from the product perspective, and Beth comes from services and a wide range of businesses. She does consulting. So we'll get into them more later. I'm doing a basic intro. Okay. Now, has everybody here seen Pinterest? You're familiar at least with the interface and what it looks like, right? Let's get rolling here. I want to go over what our agenda is like. Introductions, we can cross one off the list. I'm giving a basic overview. It'll be a fairly short presentation, and the meat of our workshop today is Andrea and Beth. So first, let's take a look. First let's cover what the agenda is. What is Pinterest? Why is it important? Basic concepts. And Andrea will get into setting up your profile, how to set up boards well, how to promote products. And you'll find she's quite an expert on a variety of products. I told her, you need to talk to her about bra straps. Okay, how do I get, building relationships. Some people are just pinning, but it truly is a social network. It's all about sharing, and building relationships is where you really start to see some major business results. And then using contests for product promotion. Beth will pick up after that with creative contest ideas, using Pinterest for service business, how to set up your Pinterest properly, and how to integrate with your website. We're also going into a little bit of integrating with social media and getting traffic through Pinterest. And all important, planning your business strategy. The thing that most people are missing, one reason we have a major opportunity here is you've got this wildly popular, rapidly, virally growing tool, namely Pinterest, and most people are just pinning. No strategy, no nothing. If you have a strategy, if you understand what you're doing, you're at a major advantage. The tail end, we'll have a panel Q&A. So first let's get into what is Pinterest. And somebody brought up the issue of this is all too complex, time consuming. A thing about Pinterest that is a relief to me, well, first, like a lot of people, I've been fed up with all the Facebook changes, and often it just seems too complex. Pinterest is so much more intuitive. You can pretty much get on and catch on and do something right away. It's such an intuitive interface and natural to use that actually just the last few months, it's been emulated by Amazon on their Zappos shoe division. It's been emulated on eBay. And Facebook actually launched a Pinterest-like interface called Collections. They've been testing that out the last couple months. So people are going, well, this interface, this way of doing things is working. So others, the big guys, are jumping on the bandwagon. So Pinterest is actually a virtual scrapbook. It's just like you can think of a bunch of cork boards and they have categories. And you're pinning things, you're pinning images or videos or whatever by category. It's a content curation site. It'd be one thing if you were just putting up only your own images, your own pictures, but it encourages pinning other people's. Look, explore for what captures your imagination or what you want to share with people. It's a bookmarking site. You can go back and refer to your Pinterest account for collections of things. For instance, wedding planners use it a lot. You plan your wedding on a Pinterest account. There we go. Important, I mean, this is a pretty mind-blowing statistic. It hit 10 million visitors faster than any site ever. That was, what, around last January or so? Now notice, it's not that it was the fastest growing social media network, it was the fastest growing unique site ever. Pretty amazing. And it's continuing to grow. This one's pretty heavy duty. This is from Shareaholic. The stats from January to August, it's become the 4th largest traffic source. That means referral traffic, sending visitors to websites. It has passed Yahoo, Bing, and Twitter. And look at that growth rate. Just since last June or so, it's skyrocketed. What I was seeing, the reason that I go, okay, I got to start using Pinterest, is it was driving people to my site when I didn't even have my own Pinterest account. That means, that was telling me I got to start using it, and then I can control it and get quite a bit more traffic to my site. Oh, this is key. Beth asked me to emphasize this one. Buyers spend more on Pinterest. If you take a look at this, the average order, Pinterest is when it comes to conversion, when it comes to making sales, Pinterest is outperforming Google, Amazon, Yahoo, Bing. It's doing double the volume of Facebook, and this is by average order. How much do people spend when they do buy something through Pinterest? So on Facebook, when people choose to buy, they tend to buy an average of about $40 per order. On Pinterest, it's more like 80. So the thing about it is this virtual pin board where you're sharing images and you're sharing what you like. People often go there pretty much to window shop. People like to window shop together. Hey, I want to browse and see how do I want to decorate my living room. And it's fun. And then it's fun to share, and you end up actually going back and buying. Great tool. Oh, and this one's close to my heart. Really, I focus on Pinterest with respect to how can it drive traffic to my site? How can I get more result from my own online businesses? This is just an example. There are many, many case studies that show similar results. The blog, Iowa Girl Eats, is owned by Kristen Porter, and she got on Pinterest about July 2011. And she was just figuring it out and setting the account up and trying to figure out how to use Pinterest, and then kept steadily pinning. And around November, her traffic skyrocketed, and the primary driver of that was Pinterest. She went from about 6,000 visitors a month to over 100,000 in the span of 1 to 2 months. That's astronomical. And we have many other case studies that show similar results. Now, one factor here, of course, is she was regularly using Pinterest. She wasn't just putting up some boards and letting it sit there. Now we're getting into my story. Again, having heard about Pinterest for 6 months to a year, this is like about a year ago I heard about it, and I do not need more on my plate. And then I noticed earlier this year, I was looking at my Google Analytics and I'm like, what? I'm getting traffic from Pinterest and I'm not on Pinterest? Where's this coming from? It was right behind Google organic search, driving a lot of visitors to my site. So I set up a Pinterest account and looked like, what do I do with this thing? And one of the first things you should do is take a look at who's already pinning from your website. So the way to do this, I've got the URL there, pinterest.com/source/yoursite.com. That's your domain name. And you might be very surprised at what are people already pinning from your site. So this was a major discovery for me. and I'll show you what I found. If it this is a screenshot taken from the results of that search. This was done about, this screenshot is around last March, or yeah, I think it's last March. What do you see? The same picture over and over again. You want to know what that picture is? This is what was a rude awakening. It was the header image on my site. I mean, why would they pin the header image on my site? Well, it lists underneath each one what is the actual page they're pinning. And I could click on it and see. Well, the pages they were pinning were specific recipes on denvergreenchili.com. And many of them were the same. They were pinning about a half a dozen, 6 to 10 of the same pages over and over again. And guess what? There was no image on the page. So why would people pin from a page where there's no image? Any idea? Yeah, they were trying to share the recipe. And I didn't even have a picture of my most popular recipes. They were older recipes, and I hadn't gone back and taken a picture and uploaded it. It's like, talk about stupid. So seeing this result, it was incredibly valuable. The next thing I did was I took the most popular recipe, cooked it, and took pictures and uploaded it. A lot better having them pin the real recipe than just the header image over and over again. So that was a real jolt. Very educational experience. Honestly, I changed the website. I redesigned it after that. And I still have hundreds of recipes where I have to take a picture and get it up there. Got a lot of work ahead, but it's worth it. Because they will pin even more if there's an image. So this was my rude awakening. Okay, I'm going to show you. This is just a few little examples of how I use it, and you'll get much more in depth from Andrea and Beth. Okay, where's my fire? There it is. Okay, so here we have Denver green chili. Very simple example of one thing I'm doing with it. You see this on the left, recent pins? This is the main page of Denver green chili. Recent pins is a WordPress plugin. What it does is it automatically shows my most recent pins from my Pinterest account. It's very easy to, I mean, this plugin can be installed in 5 minutes. You can set it up the way you want. And what happens is, as I'm pinning recipe pictures, these images keep changing on my website with no work at all. It does a lot to enhance the visuals on the site and make it dynamic without any work. Now, if I go to the right, I have another. There we go. Here's another one called Chili Eye Candy. This is another WordPress plugin. And what this is showing is one board in my Pinterest account. And so it keeps changing as I pin more to just that one board. So this particular one shows Ristras, the hanging chilies. Let's take a look at another. Well, I'm going to show you what we mean by pinning. So you'll see, when you set up your Pinterest account, Pinterest wants you to put that pin it button in your toolbar. Has everybody done that? And you notice how easy it is. You're browsing around the internet, you see an image you want to pin, you just click on your pin it button. And of course, Pinterest walks you through how to just drag that button up onto your toolbar. So if I click on pin it, we're on that page, it shows me all the images, and I can pin them. Now then, there's another way to do this. Just a second. I'm going back to this page. You can also put a pin it button on the page. Now, Pinterest tells you how to do that in their goodies section, but also there's a WordPress plugin. I'm using a WordPress plugin here. And if I click on it, I pretty much see the same thing. It shows me every image on the page, and I can select which one to pin. Pinterest is great for your biz. It looks like I'm going to pin this. I'm not logged into my Pinterest account. So let's see. What do you think? Does this look like acapella? Oh, it's amusing, isn't it?
There's one called Yummies all the way at the bottom.
Oh, okay. All right. You're right. I've got to select which board I want the image to go into. Yummies definitely fits, or I could create a new board on the fly. So let's select Yummies. Tomatillo salsa. All right, so it's picking the title of that and putting it in. And I can go ahead and add a description if I want. I can add keywords, etc. Right now I'm just leaving it and pinning. Okay, see your pin. All right. So
could you have added a link?
I could have added a link, yes, and it would be a live link. Now, but I'm looking at this pin now, and if I click on it, you'll notice it goes to the page that it was pinned from. So a big advantage here, this is so simple. You can browse around the internet, pin an image, and Pinterest automatically puts the link back to the source page that it came from. For recipes, this is great. I'm pinning from a recipe page. Everybody tracking?
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
So the pin it that you put into your website, that helps the customer who doesn't have the pin it in their toolbar.
Either that, or it's also more in your face.
Yeah.
You know, people. This particular one is a plugin, but you don't need WordPress to put a button like that there. There's instructions in Pinterest goodie section on how to put pin it buttons on your page. So everybody's, any questions here? So there's the recently pinned image. Okay, now let me show you another thing I'm doing with this. You are following that you're getting a backlink, basically. Now people can also repin. So when you're pinning to your boards and people follow you, they're going to see your pins. If they like it, they may pin to their board. So they're repinning the image, and that same link is with the image on their board. So you can get backlinks to your site spreading through the internet, and it definitely happens with recipes.
So for like SEO purposes, is that a true backlink? No.
Yeah, that's going to cover this. There's a no follow on it, so you know, but it can still have some viral effect, because if people share and click, it can still drive traffic.
Yeah, it increases traffic, that's right.
Right. So let me show you something else I'm doing with this. Here's my opt-in page for subscribing to the Recipe of the Week. Now, I have deliberately put recipe pictures on my opt-in page with a pin it button. And what I'm doing now is I put the two types of pictures on my subscribe page. I want beautiful pictures, and I want popular recipes. I want the pictures that people are most likely to re-pin. And then I'm pinning, like so, adding to Yummies. And where do you think that backlink goes? It goes to my subscribe page. Now, here we see it, and we could click on it and we'll see the subscribe page again. Now, of course, I have the same image on the recipe page. Do I want to pin from the recipe page or from the subscribe page? The subscribe page, exactly. Great way to help build your list. Now, if I take a look at, I pinned this a long time ago and then I added it to the subscribe page. I can always go to my, the original pin and edit the link to have it go to the subscribe page, which I will do. Any questions so far? Yeah.
So what happens when you change the picture? Does it matter?
You mean change the picture on the page?
On the subscribe page. So if you want to test different things.
Yeah, well, here's what would happen. If I eliminate that picture from the page, The only negative effect is people have pinned and repinned and they click and the image isn't there. So it might be confusing to them. But the backlink's still good and the image is still pinned.
The link is to the URL, not to the image.
Exactly. Now you can upload an image and you can pin just an image. That doesn't buy you traffic to the site, but you can do that.
His question was if you took the image off, the repinned all the way along is still the URL for the sign-up page, the squeeze page.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't signed up for this, but my name is taken on here, and there's a dozen pins already.
So somebody else took your name?
For my company. Yeah.
I've seen others with that too. That's why it helps to get on Pinterest as soon as possible. So you got to come up with some close variation for that. And you might follow whoever has your name and put links back to yours. How's that? Okay, so does this give you just a general idea like how I'm using Pinterest? Any questions at all? I want to move on and put our experts on shortly. Okay, back to... Oh. Yeah, I did want to point out a little bit here. Let's look at Beth's page, Beth's Yummies. You'll notice that people don't just pin, they also make comments they like, and when you get into this social interaction, you can get some major results happening. Here we have an interesting, Beth and Andrea will cover this a lot more. All right, let's go back to, I'm about to, this, yeah, isn't it though? All right. So you're actually, the issue of building community is a factor. Okay. Oops, yeah. And I'm pretty, I'm not in the slideshow. Dang it. We're about ready for a break. This is just a brief intro before we get to Andrea. Yes. Okay, so we're going to take about a 10-minute break, and then Andrea will get into some... So I'd like you all to give Andrea a warm welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm going to try and talk without the mic, so I want to make sure everybody can hear me. We're good? Okay. So thanks, Anita, for that intro. My name, let's see.
You got it. With the right arrow, and you got to click a few times.
Okay.
Try it.
We'll get this working and then I'll start.
It might be...
It was working a second ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems to, like, maybe you need to point it.
Okay. So I might have to get a hang of it before we get started. So my name is Andrea Ayers, and I started my own t-shirt company called Tees for Change in 2007, and actually ended up selling the company about a year ago. And since then, I have been working with entrepreneurs that have a product line, and I've been helping them get their products in stores, get publicity for their products, and get more traffic and sales to their website. So naturally, Pinterest is perfect for products, and I wish I had it when I had my t-shirt line, or I wish I knew about it. But I started learning about it now, and I'm helping my clients to use it, and they're getting really great results. So in the meantime, as I had my t-shirt company, I was able to get my t-shirts in over 300 stores nationally and internationally, and in over 200 media outlets, including Ladies Home Journal, Women's World, Shape, Self, and so on. And my mission is to really help entrepreneurs that have a product-based business. I feel like there's a lot of coaches that work with entrepreneurs that have a service business and not so many with a product-based business. So I have online courses and services that I offer. And then my main website, launchgrowjoy.com, I offer a lot of free tips and advice on how to grow your product line. So now I want to talk a little bit about how I started using Pinterest. And so let me talk about what you're going to learn today. So we're going to talk about my journey with Pinterest for my business now, not my t-shirt business. And then we're going to talk about Pinterest for your product line and for your brand. I know a lot of you here don't have a product line, but a lot of the stuff that I'm going to cover is going to apply to pretty much everybody here. And then I'm going to talk about 4 steps to your Pinterest success. And we're going to share how to develop a strategy and what sort of strategy can you really have with Pinterest. And then I'm going to talk about how to get more followers, which is really important on Pinterest, and how to increase your influence. And then you're going to hear about 4 musts for effective pins. So we're going to go into a little more detail about what Anita was showing us before and how to pin and how to write a pin description. And then I'm going to give you some Pinterest board ideas. I know a lot of people, when they start with Pinterest, they think, well, what can I pin? What boards can I have? So I'm going to give you 9 ideas specifically for product-based businesses. But again, a lot of these can apply to a lot of you here. And then I'm going to talk about tracking your results. And I'm going to cover something that Anita covered with how to find out who's pinning from your site, but also how to use Google Analytics and how to really track your results here. So, okay. All right. So I want to tell you a little bit about my journey with Pinterest, and it's really similar to Anita's. And actually, this is a screenshot from my website, launchgrowjoy.com, from October 1st until yesterday. So you'll see here that Pinterest was the most popular referrer to my website. And I have a service-based business. I don't have a product-based business. And the interesting thing, the reason I wanted to show this is because I literally spent 2 minutes on Pinterest this whole month uploading just one pin, which was an infographic that I created. And you'll see that it sent more traffic to my site than Facebook, which I'm on every day, responding and posting. And the great thing is that if you look, I don't know if you can see from here, but if you look at the pages per visit and the average visit duration, you'll see that it's longer than a lot of the other traffic that's coming from my website. So traffic from Pinterest is really, really valuable, like you were saying before with the average order and so on. And this is just a great example of how it really does work. Okay. So the reason I wanted to talk about Pinterest and products, obviously because I have a product background, but also because Pinterest really is a natural fit for product lines, because you already have pictures. You don't need to take pictures. You don't need to come up with images to design or anything like that. You already have all of that as a product business. So, and if you also look at the Pinterest categories here, you'll see that a lot of them are geared towards different products. So it really is a natural fit for jewelry, apparel, and fashion, and so on. So this is just, it's really the perfect fit for a product-based business and service-based business as well. I'm sure Beth is going to talk about that. Okay. So here are 3 ways that you can get exposure for your products using Pinterest. The first one is that actually people are looking for products to discover. They're looking for things to decorate their homes with, for wedding items. They're looking for jewelry, for outfits. So they're actually going on Pinterest and searching for these things. So there's not that much work extra you have to do on there, because Pinterest is really naturally geared towards people that are looking for products, and why not have your products on there? And then the other way that you can get exposure is that you can share your products. So like Anita was showing us how to pin her recipes, you can go to your own website and pin your own products to your Pinterest boards, and then other people are going to repin them and comment on them and like them and share them. And that's the third point, how you can get exposure. You can ask other people to share your products. For example, you can do a contest, which I'm going to talk about later, and ask people to upload their favorite products from your website and get a lot of traffic from Pinterest that way as well. Okay. So the first step, and I'm glad you mentioned having a strategy, because I really think that having a strategy is the most important thing you can be doing on Pinterest before you get started. And even if you've already started, just take a couple of minutes to really think about what is it that you want to get out of using Pinterest. So here are some strategies that you can have, and you can have all of these or one of these, and you can also add your own. But you can really use it to connect with customers, to use it as a branding and a lifestyle tool. If you have a product line, you can connect with wholesalers, with sales reps and showrooms. You can find publicity opportunities. You can even educate your customers and provide tips, strategies, and advice, and so on. But obviously, the reason a lot of people use Pinterest is to drive more traffic to their website and to increase their sales. So this is super easy to do. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in the next couple of minutes. But really think about, what do you want to get out of Pinterest? And I know a lot of you have different strategies for Facebook and for Twitter. And really think about, what do I want from Pinterest? And that's going to help you to save so much time and energy from just going out there and pinning. All right. So the second, I'll get this eventually. The second step is to optimize your profile. So once you log into Pinterest, you have the option to add your company name or your name. If you are using it for your business, you want to add your company name. If you're using personally, or if you are the name, or if you're the face behind your brand, then you can use your name as well. So you can decide which way you want to go here. But make sure to also add your logo or a photo. If you're using it personally, you can add your own photo. If it's for your business, you can add your logo. And the other thing that's super important here is to fill in your description, and also make sure to include your keywords in your description, because that's how people find you. So for example, I know no one here sells soap, but let's say you are selling organic soap. You want to make sure that you enter that keyword in your description, so when people are searching for organic soap, they're going to find your profile and follow you, hopefully, and follow your board. So having your description and the keywords in there is very, very important. The next thing you want to do is to enter your website. Location is not that important, but if you have a local business, you might want to enter it in there as well. And the reason you want to enter your website is because when people come to your profile, this is the only way that they can go directly from your website without having to search through your pins and figure out which ones are yours and which ones are from another website. So once you add your website, you'll see a little the earth icon right there where I have your site, and that allows people to go directly through your site from Pinterest. And then you also have the option to connect your Facebook profile, although keep in mind it's your personal profile and not your business page. So that's one way to get more traffic if you're using Pinterest personally. Yeah.
Are you saying they don't allow you to connect to your business Facebook page?
You can't log in. I believe you can put your business page there, but if you log in with your
You can, on your Facebook, and you might cover this in
Yeah.
a second, on your Facebook business page, you can actually put the Pinterest logo, and from there they can go to Pinterest. But Pinterest only goes
to your personal. Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of requests to go to your business page from entrepreneurs and everybody who's using it for business. They might have that feature later on, but right now, whenever you pin something to your Pinterest account, it'll show up in your Facebook personal page, not your business page. So I recommend logging in with Twitter because, especially if you're using Twitter for business, that feeds right into your business Twitter feed and has nothing to do with your personal page. So just keep that in mind as well when you are setting that up. And again, great way to get free traffic to your website. Okay. So the third step is to create and optimize your boards. And I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about your boards here because I think this is one of the most important things that you can do on Pinterest, even more important, I think, than some of your pins. And that's because when somebody lands on your Pinterest page, they look at your boards and your description when they decide if they're going to follow you or not. So if your boards are not relevant to them, they're probably just going to leave and not follow your profile. So I always say that the secret to Pinterest success is to really create boards that your target market and your customers are interested in, and not necessarily things that you're interested in. And I'm going to give you an example, I think, in the next slide. But really think about, okay, who's my target customer, and what's their lifestyle like, and how can I create boards that speak to them? And not necessarily to me. And of course, there's going to be things in there that are personal to you and your personal interests, but it's really important to keep them in mind and create boards around their interests. And as you're creating your boards, obviously organizing them in specific categories and specific topics is very important because that's how people find exactly the things you want them to find and discover on your page. And here's another thing that a lot of people overlook. They forget to add a category. And what happens when you forget to categorize your boards is that whenever you pin something, Pinterest on their homepage has all of the different categories. So if you don't pin something to a board that's categorized, it's never going to show up in those categories when people search for different products. So does that make sense? Yeah.
Are these predefined categories?
Yes, they're.
You can't create your own necessarily.
No, you can't create it, and I'm going to show you all the categories are right here. So you'll see animals, architecture, and so on. So when somebody goes to Pinterest to discover something new, let's say they're looking for new quotes, if your board with quotes is not categorized, it's never going to show up on here. And that's a great way to get people to discover you and your products. Yeah.
How open has Pinterest been so far to people suggesting new categories when their products or services just aren't well represented by the existing categories?
Oh, so the question is, how open is Pinterest to adding new categories if they're not already on there? And I would have to say, I think they're pretty open. It's always, because it's such a new site, it's always changing. And I know when I first started using it, there were definitely not that many categories on there. And now there's a ton. So I think, based on feedback, they are open to adding new things on there. Yes.
Is there a category for jewelry? Because I've never found one.
Category for jewelry. She wants to know if there's a category for jewelry. There's a category for products. So you can put it on there. Let's see if there's, I don't think I see a fashion, but maybe it might be under hair and beauty or something like that. But does anybody see fashion? I see, women's fashion actually, under W. So you probably would want to put your jewelry under women's fashion. I would think that would make the most sense. So just keep in mind to have your categories on there if you want more people to discover you. And the other thing you want to do, as I mentioned before with your own description, is to have keyword-rich descriptions in your board descriptions as well. Because again, when people go to Pinterest and they're looking for jewelry or accounting services, that's what they're going to type in to the search field. And if you don't have those in your board descriptions, in your pin descriptions, or in your profile description, they're never going to find you. And you want them to find you because that's what Pinterest is all about. And I'm not sure if Beth is going to talk a little bit more about hashtags or the @ sign, but I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But if you use the hashtag, which is the # in front of your main keywords, that's going to make them a little more searchable and a little more relevant to people's search results as well. So just keep that in mind as you are creating your boards and categorizing them and entering descriptions. And the other thing that is super important, and I follow this rule and I always recommend this to my clients, is to follow the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your board should be about your customers' interests, and 20% should be about you, your brand, and your products. Now, if you are the face of your brand, then this is going to change a little bit. But if you're not necessarily the face of your brand, you still want to give people an insight into your company and who you are and your story. And if you follow this rule, you're going to get a lot of people to follow you, and you're also going to get them to relate to you because they find something that's really relevant to them, and that's how you build those relationships on Pinterest. It's really about providing relevant content. So I wanted to give you an example here. What do I mean by the 80-20 rule? So let's say you had an all-natural bath and beauty product brand. So here are some board ideas. Let's say you only had 10 boards. The first 8 are things that your customers would be interested in, like organic recipes or local restaurants or beauty tips, health magazines maybe, or eco-friendly gifts. And then the 20% should be your product, maybe behind the scenes with your company, and even customer testimonials. But really keep in mind why they're there and on your board. And it's the reason they're there is, yes, to find your product, but also to find content that's really relevant to them. So does that make sense? And I hope this helped with how to follow the 80-20 rule. Now let's talk about the 4th step, and that's to build your following. So having a follower base on Pinterest is really, really important because the more followers you have, the more people are going to see all of your products, all of the things you pin. Because when you pin something, everybody who's following you is going to see your pins in their feed when they first log into Pinterest. And they can comment, they can like you, or like your pin and repin. But if you don't have a follower base, then anytime you pin something, it's sort of like no one sees it, no one can repin it or really interact with it because no one is seeing it. And I have some clients who are pinning a lot of stuff on Pinterest and they only have 20 followers. And they're like, well, I'm working on building my boards, but no one is pinning, no one's commenting, and that's because no one is seeing them. And the way to get people to see your stuff is to get people to really follow you. So there's a couple of ways to get people to follow you. The most obvious one is to start following other people who you want to be followed by. And you can use the search function within Pinterest to find interesting and relevant people and follow them. And obviously not everyone is going to follow you back, but a lot of people will. And another way to do it is to add the follow me on Pinterest button on your website, like Anita had on her website. So that way when people come to your site, they're gonna easily follow you by just clicking one button, and they're gonna know you're on Pinterest. So anytime you upload something new, they're automatically gonna see it. And it's a great way to start that relationship and interaction with your customers. Here are a couple more ways that you can, or things you can do to increase your following. The first one is, and I really think this is the most important one, is to create relevant content. And that's where the 80-20 rule comes in again. So if you create relevant boards that your target market and your customers are interested in, you're going to get them to follow you right away. Because they want to see what you have, and it's relevant and it applies to them. The second way to do it is to go outside of Pinterest and promote your boards through your e-newsletter, your blog, your Facebook and your Twitter accounts, your website, and all of the channels that you can use outside of Pinterest. And then lastly, inside of Pinterest, you can get new followers by engaging with other users and their boards, leaving comments, liking their pins, repinning something, using the @ sign to tag something similar to how you would use it in Twitter, and so on. But these are just ways that if you're constantly working on this and you have a plan of how to increase your followers, you're really gonna build your following really fast. And I actually followed these steps, and I was able to get more followers to my Pinterest account in a few months than I had with my Facebook account in over a year. So it really, really works. The @ sign is similar to how you would use it in Twitter. I don't know if you've ever used it, but if you put @ and then start typing a user's name, they get a message that you tagged them in a pin or something like that, and they're aware of you. So I can give you a specific example with me. For example, one of my goals was to get an entrepreneur magazine and to get them to follow me on Pinterest. So I went on their boards and I tagged them, Entrepreneur Magazine, with a comment. And interestingly enough, the next day they started following me. So now every time I pin something, it shows up in their feed as well. So it's basically just another way to get someone's attention and to say, hey, I noticed you, I'm following you, or I like your pin, or here's a great comment.
So you put in at the Entrepreneur Magazine?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you would just put in at and then start typing it in, and it automatically fills it in with their name. So, I mean, I think it works the same on Facebook as well.
So it's people that are on Pinterest?
Yes, it's people that are on Pinterest, have an account, and I think you have to follow them before it starts automatically filling in their name. Okay. So now the last step I want you to really start thinking about is to create pin-worthy images for your website. So here are just a couple of examples of things that are really popular, get a lot of attention. And the things that you're noticing here is that there's both text and an image. And there's been a ton of studies done with Pinterest, and that is if you have text and a photo, as opposed to either just text or either just a photo, you're more likely to get your images pinned and repinned. So keep that in mind as you are creating your blog posts or creating images on your website. Really think about, is this an image that if somebody saw that on Pinterest by itself with no other context, would they know what it's about, and would they want to repin it and maybe comment on it? Yes.
But if the text is only part of an image, and it's not text typed in, you don't get search credit for that, right?
Yes, the question was if the text is part of an image, you don't get search credit for that, and that's true. Yes, unless you name your image that name. But I think, I'm not sure, I'd have to check if Pinterest changes the image name when you upload it, or if it lets you keep the image name. I'm not really sure what it does. But basically, images with both text and a picture are more likely to be repinned and to be interacted with. And taller images are also more likely to be repinned than shorter ones. And the reason I'm focusing on this is because you want your images not only to upload them to Pinterest, but you want them repinned, because that's how you get more awareness, that's how you get more traffic. And I know, for example, with the infographic that I was telling you about, where I spent a couple of hours creating it, but then I spent just 2 minutes uploading it on Pinterest, and it's actually been uploaded more than 2,000 times just in the last week. So the amount of traffic that I've been getting to my website just from people repinning without me having to do any extra work has been huge. And again, it was a tall image. It was really, really tall and long, and it works. So keep that in mind as you are doing your images as well. And the maximum horizontal width is about 554 pixels. So if you can create images that are that wide, then that's great. If not, Pinterest automatically resizes them when you upload them. And now I wanted to talk a little bit more about, when you pin something, what works, what's effective, and what gets people to interact and to repin that image, which is what you want. So I mentioned that you want to make your pin description search engine friendly by using relevant keywords. So you can sit down and think about maybe 10 keywords that when somebody's searching for them on Pinterest, you want your pins and your boards to show up. So make sure you make a board or pins and include all those keywords in each pin. And obviously you want to use both broad and specific keywords. And if you want to use the hashtag, if it's necessary, if it's a keyword that you really want to be found for, obviously go ahead and do it, but don't overdo it. I see some pins where every other word has a hashtag in front of it, and that sort of takes away from the connection with the customers, and it makes it seem like you're there just to get traffic and not really to interact. So if you can keep it to maybe 2 or 3 hashtags the most, ideally 1, but if you have more keywords in a pin description, you can do 2 or 3. And this is something that I don't see done a lot on Pinterest, but that's to use a call to action in your pin. So doing things like click here to find out more, or click here to watch this video, and specifically adding that text to an image is going to get you a lot more click-throughs than if you just had an image of a video or a picture or something like that. So you want to tell people what to do and how to interact with that image, and that's going to get you a lot of traffic to your website. And here's another thing that you want to do. Even though when you upload something from your website, Pinterest will automatically add that link to the pin, so when somebody clicks on it, it goes to your site. But you also want to add that link to your description to give people two different places where they can click. And sometimes if someone reads your description and they have the link right following the description, they're more likely to click through than if they just had to click through the picture. So again, it's having that call to action and saying click here to find out more. That's going to get a lot of people to click through and get more traffic for you to your website. Yes? Oh, okay, so that's a great question. So the question was, if you're listing 10 keywords, are you going to be penalized in terms of searches or anything like that? So I think maybe I didn't make it clear, because by 10 keywords, I didn't mean to have 10 keywords in one description. I meant to have one keyword in each description, but create 10 boards or 10 pins around each one of those keywords. Does that make sense? So you would only have one keyword in each description, not 10.
You have to list one description for your whole Pinterest board, though, for the main one, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So, right. So I thought you meant about the pin description, not your board or your account description. When you do your account description, I would just pick maybe one or two of your main keywords. So for me, for example, one of my keywords is Pinterest expert and product marketing. And obviously I have a ton of other ones, but those are the two most important, that I think are most important for me, and I want people to find me. So in my description of my company or my name, I only have two, not all 10. So does that make it a little more clear? Okay. Yeah.
Silly question probably, but, okay, so if you make a little image and you put words on the front of it, can you do that and upload that to Pinterest, even though it's not found on a site, it's not anywhere else?
Yes, you can do that. And you can go to Pinterest. I don't know if I can do it right now, but basically you would just go to add a pin, and it gives you the option to add it from a URL, add it from your desktop, and you would just click on upload from my desktop, and you just upload it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I thought you literally could only pin stuff that was already somewhere else. I'm thinking you can publish this somewhere.
Right,
Okay.
yes, yeah. So you can definitely just upload from your desktop. The only thing it does is that it doesn't link to anything. It just links to that actual image on Pinterest. So if you wanted to link back to your website or something like that, you're going to have to click edit after you upload, and edit that link.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So now let's talk about another great way if you have a product line, and this actually goes for books as well, or info products, or anything that somebody can buy that has a price tag. So another great feature of Pinterest is that if you add the $ and a price to your pin description, it automatically feeds your products into this gift section on the Pinterest homepage. So let's say you have a customer or a client, and actually anybody on Pinterest, and they're looking for jewelry. And they're looking to give jewelry, maybe that's between $50 and $70. They can click on the Pinterest gift section and click that price range, and your product is going to show up here because you included the $ and the product price in your pin description. So if you have something that you can sell online and you're pinning that, just make sure to add it here. And again, another great way to get exposure, just like having your product show up in the category feed on Pinterest. Yes.
About that actually. So does that actually pull everything that has a price badge on it, or is it some algorithm or search engine thing where it's only pulling some of it?
I think it pulls everything. Now, I know there's a lot of times, because I've tested this, where I put a price on something and I go to see if it's here and it's not there. And I think that's just because Pinterest search engine or their API or whatever, their back end just hasn't caught up with it. But I know it's really spotty and it doesn't always work. So they're getting better. Last time I've tried this, all of mine showed up right away. The first time I used it, it was like maybe every third or fourth one would actually show up. So it's definitely worth it to test and see if something shows up here right after you've pinned it. Yeah.
You know how it prioritizes?
I think it's the latest pins, although I have heard that sometimes if something is more popular and if it gets a lot of interaction, then they tend to keep it more towards the front. So I think it's a combination of both.
Do they collect the money or use it?
Yeah, so the question is, do they collect the money? No, they basically provide this sort of like a catalog, and when you click through, it takes you to the website of that original product or the pin. So they collect no money whatsoever. So the question was, when you add the price, is the little stripe automatic there? So it's kind of hard to see on this slide, but you'll see on the upper left-hand corner, there's a banner with the price, and that automatically gets added when you add the $ and the price in your pin description. So the question was, can you, if you've already pinned something without a price, can you go back and edit? And yes, you can. You just click on Edit Pin and add your price in there. Now, the only thing, and Pinterest is always changing, and I don't know if that's your experience too, Beth, but if you edit something in Pinterest, they tend to not like that, and they tend to not show it up in the search results or in the categories or in anything else. And that's because there's a lot of fraud with affiliate marketers who are going on Pinterest and pinning something and then editing it with their affiliate link. So one way for Pinterest to sort of combat that is to not really give that much exposure to pins that are edited. So that's something to keep in mind. If maybe you have a product or a pin, maybe you might want to delete that first and then re-upload it again with the price tag.
Put it all on a separate board called gifts.
Right,
And then
yes.
Put that in there with the prices on it, and then that will go into the product catalog in Pinterest. Is that right?
Yes, correct, yes. Yes.
Can you deal in currencies other than US dollar?
The question is, can you deal in currencies other than the US dollar? I think you can do it with the British pound, and it'll put the price on there. I don't know that you can do it with any other currencies right now, but with those two you can. Yeah.
In looking at this gift area and putting prices on, I found so many people that it would link to their main page and you can't find the product. When you work with somebody on their product, do you plan out how the site looks and where, making your pins effectively?
Right. Yeah, so the question was, when you see something on Pinterest or in the gift section, you click through on it and you're thinking you're going to a specific gift or product, it actually takes you to that company's homepage. So what I recommend when I'm working with clients is anytime you pin something, make sure you pin it from the specific page of that product. So let's say you have, for example, with my t-shirt line, in my store, I had my main categories that had short sleeve and long sleeve and organic t-shirts. So if I pin from there, it's going to take me to that page where there's a ton of product. But if I want people to go to a specific product, you want to pin from that specific page. And it's the same thing with your blog. If you write a blog post, make sure you pin from that specific page on that blog post as opposed to your home page. Because when you're pinning from your home page or your category pages, it takes people just to your home page and they're not going to come back because they're thinking, well, I was looking for this article and now I have to search and find it, and they're probably going to leave your site. Well, if you change your pages, the question was, what if you change your pages and somebody clicks through, then they're going to get an error message when they come to your page. So that's a great point because you want to periodically go into your Pinterest account and any items that are yours, you want to click through and make sure that they're still going to the right page and you haven't changed those pages.
Are sales higher on ones with a price tag on them? Is there more of a conversion?
Yeah, I think the question was, are there sales higher or maybe click-throughs higher if there's a price? And I don't know if you have an insight, but I know I've seen two studies. One said that they are, and one said that they're not. So,
Well, and one
yeah.
said that, I saw one that said when you've got a price badge on it,
Yeah.
they get repinned more often. Repinned and liked more
Yeah.
often, so there might be a little more exposure.
Right, yeah,
I could see
maybe,
that.
yeah. So, but I always recommend testing and just seeing what happens, and test pinning things at different times of the day. I know here, for example, the best time to pin on the weekends is on Saturday morning. So if you have something that you really want to get out there, a lot of people are on Pinterest on Saturday morning, and that's Eastern time. So keep in mind that as you're pinning, you're going to get more exposure. And then during the weekdays, the best time is on Thursday. And then those are 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time and 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're not on Pinterest at those times, you can use a tool like pingraphy.com to actually schedule your pins to upload to your Pinterest account during those times. So try it out and see what works best for you and what you're more likely to get a response to. So now I also wanted to go on and give you 9 ideas for Pinterest boards. Now, a lot of these are for product entrepreneurs, but some of them can definitely apply to everybody here. And you can use Pinterest to highlight your retailers, and I'm going to give you specific examples of each one of these individually here. Or you can use it to inspire followers, and obviously everybody on Pinterest or a lot of people are on Pinterest to be inspired, to get ideas. So you want to keep that in mind as you're creating your boards. You can highlight a product line, even your press mentions. If you do a lot of guest writing, or if you have a lot of press mentions or appearances, you can use Pinterest to highlight those. You can also create a user-generated board and get your customers involved and your followers. You can use Pinterest to celebrate your customers, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. You can highlight their lifestyle, and again, I think that's super important to do, and that's why it's very important to know who your customers are, so you can really highlight their lifestyles on your Pinterest boards. And you can also give them behind the scenes or hold a contest. And I know Beth is going to go into a lot more details about having a contest on Pinterest.